White supremacy believes in taking both sides of the argument. Neely Fuller said it. We keep repeating it, but a lot of you just don't listen. The bootlegs who are not really about black empowerment cannot spend a lot of time criticizing white supremacy. Their mission, the entire purpose the white media puts them on, is to lead you away from attacking white supremacy. So with these two-faced liars, we always see the exact same pattern. They come out and make one little old piddly statement that sounds good on its face, but then they immediately pivot to something else, be it LGBT or immigrant advocacy or moving toward an overt anti-black line of rhetoric. And this is not just a rhetorical ploy by those on the right, it goes double for those who claim to be on the left. That's just bait that they use to draw you in. It works on the weak-willed and weak-minded, and that so many black people, including a number of folks who are in this space, happily follow after clowns like Kwame Brown. That is, until he showed where he really stood. That proves that this tactic works, even in places where it shouldn't. This is the pattern because this is how a double agent operates. They have to get your attention. And since, thanks to the new voices of black media, you guys, well, a lot of you at any rate, want a hardcore anti-white supremacist message. These coons in sheep's clothing, they know they have to sound like us. So they try to imitate our language, our verbiage, what seems like our talking points, and they wait to see how many of you will follow after them. Because they're a new face or because the white media puts them on. So to you, this means you can just sit back while they do all the talking. Because let's face it, that's what people who follow these Johnny-come-latelys really want. And then you begin spreading their name like a cancer. You begin signal boosting what they say. These agent provocateurs are here to muddy the waters, to cause disruption and try to obstruct our message. That's why they never come out and admit that they're white supremacist sock puppets. Kwame Brown only said one thing that you agree with, and he said that up front. But everything else that's come out of his ignorant, crooked mouth sounds like it was written by Tucker Carlson. So if 99.9% of his thoughts, such as they are in line with blatant anti-black racism, then why is it that the first video he posted, which just so happened to get caught by the YouTube algorithm, was the one time he said something that sounded like us? He didn't accidentally get boosted by the algorithm. He was selected to be pushed to you. And we see this a number of times by the white online media. They wanted you to see him. And since a majority of black people are immature and choose to operate on a lowbrow level, they see some guy who was an athlete and they fall at his feet and hang on his every word. Even after he proves that he was a double agent all along, you still follow behind them and keep spreading their name. Now, it's times like this, you're going to get a lot of people who are going to be saying, oh no, not me, I saw through him the whole time. Well, let me ask you something. For the folks who didn't, who I'm sure are just a handful, even though my comments and such prove otherwise, why were you so jolly in the behind to follow Kwame Brown in the first place? Why were you so hell-bound and determined to bomb my comments with messages asking what I thought about him? There are no shortcuts to black empowerment. None. You won't get some celebrity or athlete, or in the case of Kwame Brown, a third-rate bench warmer to do it for you. I'm not impressed just because someone with a little bit of name recognition given to them by the white media says something critical about white supremacy, or because they just so happen to call out a bootleg on something. Hell, I do that 6 days a week. And unlike Kwame Brown, I've been doing it online for 15 years. I didn't just show up in the last couple of months. You want to know why the Black Panthers were so thoroughly infested with informants? Because they let every Tom, Dick, and Harry in the door who said black power. Nobody had to prove themselves. Well, we're different around here. You got to establish a track record before I'm willing to listen to anything you have to say. A long time ago, there was a do-nothing group formed by people who we'll call Mushmouth and Squarejaw. A lot of you kept mentioning these two people's names in my comments, and I never responded. I never acknowledged your comments or even mentioned their names. You constantly asked me what I thought about them. I said nothing. When you posted their names in my comments or my Twitter feed, I'd either remove your comment or tell you to remove it, or just block you altogether. A lot of you didn't understand why. I already smelled the fakeness on them and didn't mention their names because I'm mature. I'm not new to this. If all someone has to do is to give one or two sound bites criticizing white supremacy, that's like a joke to me. I don't get giddy in the behind just because someone says one thing I might happen to agree with. This is a marathon, not a sprint. I've seen a ton of people who claim to do what we do, and 90% of them are gone. A lot of people were singing D. Ray McKesson's praises after CNN gave him a little bit of exposure, but I didn't. There's a lot of people who claim to be black media, a lot of people who claim to stand for the same types of things we stand for, people who use our verbiage and talking points. However, even after 15 years, I only mention a handful of people. That's it. After all this time, there's only a small handful of people whose names I will actually mention, and it takes years before I mention anyone's name. I have to see a track record from you before I even think of mentioning you. And if you have no track record, then you'll have to wait until you establish one before I give people the okay on you. That's what you call maturity. Groups who are serious about their power, that's how they operate. But if you got a bunch of immature neophiles who basically chase after any glittering object that seems new or different, well, that kind of concept's foreign to them. Now, after Dr. Frances Cress Welsing died, Squarejaw called herself attacking the doctor and did it on the grounds of homophobia. And it was only then that a lot of you began to understand why I never mentioned this person or their partner and never praised them. You know, a lot of folks who come in this space, you act like groupies. You're groupies for whomever comes along and says something that tickles your ears. TBA and I have said for several years that if you don't hear us talking about someone, there's a reason for it. Normally, it's because we've looked at everything they said, not just one comment you caught on YouTube or Twitter. And if we found some things that were off code or signs of an agent, we paid them no never mind. I do deep background on any of these folk who call themselves speaking on black issues. That's the reason why I'm able to bring you the information about them that I bring you. I don't just listen to what the hell they said in the last 5 minutes. I look and see what the hell their body of statements are. And 99% of the time, it comes back garbage. And when it comes to black celebrities, only a complete idiot is not thoroughly skeptical no matter what they say. Sure, I give Dave Chappelle his credit on standing up to the racists in the LGBT movement. I support his kicking Viacom in the teeth. He says a lot of valid things, and the comments he's made, especially in the last few years about the anti-black racism protests, have been good, strong statements. But that's as far as my endorsement of Dave Chappelle goes. And Dave Chappelle is an exception. Normally, I don't give my support to black celebs, period. I don't give them even lip service. So that's the best that Dave Chappelle can get from me. He can get the occasional credit from a distance. You know, there's 3 groups who black folks love to play the fool for. Preachers, entertainers, and athletes. And truth be told, the last 2 are basically the same thing. Hell, you can add a 4th category if you want to say politicians, even though most black folks can't even tell you who their city councilman is. Too many black people have a taste for low-brow, stupid discourse, and when the subject turns to religion, music, or sports, we turn our brains off completely. The white media knows that. They know that all they got to do is put a black celeb out there, and a lot of black folks who simply cannot think will be eating out of their hand. All the while, this black celebrity puppet will be leading you right to slaughter. These people are clout chasing. They want to parlay some social media attention into a job. The only reason you even know about Kwame Brown's mindless little brain farts is because the white media made sure you knew about it. They made it unavoidable. They put him in the algorithm so you see him on Twitter and YouTube. The white media gave some attention to him. They made him prominent. Malcolm talked about this decades ago. They'll select some Negro and use their media to make him prominent. Because they know a lot of you are easily swayed. You're easily impressed. And if you were one of the people who was posting messages on my YouTube or Twitter asking me about him, then congratulations, you are one of the easily duped. TBA said it best. If Kwame Brown hadn't been in the NBA, would you give a rip about anything he has to say? All of you groupies out here glomming onto whatever YouTube puts in front of you, you're not cut out for black empowerment. And you won't make it, and you shouldn't. We don't need you to tell us who's out here talking. We already know. We need to do what we do. Wait, watch, and make this person earn The privilege of being mentioned by us. Legitimacy is not given, it's earned. And these are not just my rules or TBA's rules. These are the rules that every other group practices. These other groups, they don't let some nobody, some stranger, parachute in out of nowhere, run up in their spot, say one or two on-point things, and then get everybody else to follow them. These other groups want to see a track record. They demand it. So why don't you? When the police murders of black people began to make it into the news cycle, me and TBA recognized early that the families of the deceased were hella off code. Not only did they refuse to call these murders racist, we noticed that they would declare the murderers weren't racist at all, and they forgave the murderers. Well, in that case, why should anyone be protesting? I told you on Twitter about Ashley Hall, an unarmed black woman who was shot in the back, by a white cop in a shopping center. This happened in April 2019, 2.5 years ago. The police didn't release the incident report, but according to the Aryan propagandist, the AP, a local paper filed a record request. And the record stated that there had been some sort of argument where Miss Hall and another woman were accused of running off with an entire cart full of groceries without paying. Now, right off top, that doesn't even sound right, but for the sake of argument, the report then claims that Miss Hall hit one of the store employees in the face with a bag of merchandise. The report says that Miss Hall was held and detained by store employees in the parking lot when the killer cop showed up. Now, according to the police's own report, the would-be murderer tried to handcuff Miss Hall, but told her that she wasn't under arrest. Now, if the earlier claims were true, that she was trying to run off with an entire cart full of stolen groceries and had been attacking store employees, why would the first cop on the scene tell her she's not under arrest? Anyway, according to the report, Miss Hall panicked and ran because of, according to the report, the history of unarmed black individuals being shot by white officers. And it turned out she was right to run, because that was when the cops shot her in the back. The attempted murderer tried to claim that she meant to use her stun gun, but she grabbed her pistol by mistake. Oh, you've heard that one a lot, haven't you? That's one of the police's favorite go-to lies. Miss Hall almost died. The attempted murderer was allowed to resign. This happened in St. Louis, and the DA there is a black man who looks suspect to me. He didn't do anything with this attempted murder case. He was waiting. For what? For the city to finally reach a settlement with Miss Ashley, which they did last year. She got $2 million, but she had to agree to the stipulation that the department and the police chief were free from any liability. Now, that was 18 months after the attempted murder, so obviously the prosecutor was sitting on this case. If Miss Hall had been the one who shot the cop, do you think it would have taken him 18 months to do anything with that? He had a plan, one meant to guarantee that there wouldn't be a trial. After Ashley Hall took the check, the DA then recommended arbitration rather than prosecution. The process is called restorative justice. The concept is that the perpetrator of a crime is supposed to meet their victim and they both talk about it, and hopefully the victim decides not to pursue criminal prosecution. The victim doesn't get anything other than an apology, perhaps. While this restorative justice process has been used in St. Louis before, it's usually only for non-violent offenses. When someone is shot in the back, I would think that talking it out is supposed to be off the table, but they know they're Negroes, and it was pretty obvious that Miss Hall was holding out for a check. That was her main concern. She wasn't any more concerned about a prosecution than they were. She was just trying to figure out, how do I get the bag? And too many black people have shown that if you just offer them a little bit of money, they'll let you shoot them or even kill their children. And then they'll turn around and say they forgive you. All you got to do is hand them a check, no matter how pitiful. In fact, according to the New York Times, Miss Hall said, "I forgave her the day she shot me. I felt so much relief." She actually said that. This takes forgive to a brand new low. I don't have the words to describe this level of stupidity. To say, "I forgave you the moment you did it," that's the kind of thing I would expect to hear from a wife whose husband snaps at her after dinner because he had a hard day at work. And what's this relief crap? This attempted murderer has no criminal record now because after Ashley Hall agreed that they'd hug it out, the DA announced what had been clear for over 2 years, that he wasn't going to pursue a prosecution because that had been the plan from the very beginning. So an attempted murderer is on the streets, and if she wants, she can go ask for her old job back because she has no criminal record. How can the community have relief knowing a would-be killer is on the streets looking for the next black person to murder? How can Miss Hall say it gives her relief to know that the person who tried to murder her is free and able to go back to preying on the community again? It's because this Ashley Hall character, she doesn't care about her survival. Hell, forget the check. All the DA had to do was just say, hey, you'll get a chance to hug this white woman over here. For reals? I forgives you. She'd have done that for free. Let's be honest about that one. The check might have been a sweetener, but the truth of the matter was she just wanted to make sure that she could get close to Miss Polly. Ashley Hall could give less than a damn about her own survival. And somebody like that does not deserve our support. My point is that jumping on bandwagons just because you think you should is suicidal. White supremacy is sophisticated, believe it or not. And if you're not careful, you'll wind up reinforcing it while telling yourself you're fighting it. We don't get behind someone just because they're a black victim of white supremacy. We're all victims of white supremacy. The question is, does this person who's in front of the cameras talking about their family member being killed or about their own near-death encounter with a race soldier understand what's going on? Or are they playing some kind of game in their attempt to score some quick cash? That black person has to be on code to get my support, and you can't prove that to me with a single headline. I need to see them go all in against white supremacy. I need to see a total commitment to tearing down white supremacy and calling it what it is. I better not even smell the hint of a forgive. They have to make it clear they know what the deal is. And because we've had so many of these chumps who have decided to play the game, to get my support, you're going to have to put some extras on it. You see, as the black media, we are well aware of these cases that you guys have seen the white media report on and others that don't get so much attention. But we long ago decided that we weren't writing for anyone because it became excruciatingly clear these people were just looking for a check and trying to use us to help them put pressure on the city to get them a bigger check. The white supremacists know the black community far better than we want to give them credit for. They've gotten it down to a science. While we may have zero tolerance for any attacks on the black community, the reality is that most black people in this country are only too eager to rationalize or even justify these white supremacists with badges nearly killing them or outright murdering their family members. So let me tell you again, most black people are not serious about black empowerment, no matter what our collective condition may be. And at least 1/3 of black people will fight tooth and nail against it. To them, it's a game. These are empty-headed morons who don't deserve our support. The Ashley Halls of this world, they make targets out of all of us. And they help to push the narrative that black people don't mind being murdered. Why, they'll gladly hug the white supremacist who tried to kill them and say, I forgave you the moment you shot me. We said we weren't going to mention these victims anymore unless their families showed that they weren't just trying to hustle themselves a quickie payout from the city. At least 1/3 of black people have this gutter mentality where if they'll gamble their lives or even the lives of their own children on the minute chance they might score a check from the city. And in Miss Hall's case, how much you want to bet that she took her check and went straight back to the same shopping center that almost got her killed? Respect isn't given, it's earned. And the same goes for support. Now, we will mention the occasional race killing here or there. We are the black media. That's part of what we do. We're not going to stop doing that part. But as far as going to the mat for them, that we will not do. These families have to prove to us they're on code first. And they have to do better than just a one-and-done mention of racism. If they're not going all out on a warpath to make it clear this is white supremacy, then I'm not saying anything. I won't fight harder for justice than they do. In fact, I won't fight at all until I see them putting up the fight of their lives. Now, the point I'm trying to get across is this. It is way too late in the day for us to still have to be explaining this. We, the thought leaders of the black media, have been saying this for the longest time. Ashley Hall has marked herself as someone who doesn't care about her own survival, much less black empowerment. But those of you who lurk here, the lurkers, and who keep asking us, what do we think of this or that person who the YouTube algorithm suggested to you, you're no better than that Hall woman is. And while I know there's new people finding the black media every day, young people who may not be familiar with how we operate, the fact is this is coming from a lot of people 25 and over. And if you're still this easily fooled or this easily excited by every Tom, Dick, and Harry who says the slightest thing that you agree with, then that is a failure of common sense. Too many people who come in this space, they think that this is politically oriented entertainment, and it's not. They try to treat black advocacy the same as you do hip-hop beefing. Did you hear what so-and-so said? Ooh, have you heard this new mixtape from so-and-so? And no, we are not obligated to respond to every moron who has an opinion or says something stupid either. That's the other end of the spectrum. On the one hand, you got Kwame Brown, who got some of y'all all hot and bothered because he said a couple of critical things about Stephen A. Schmuck. And on the other end of the spectrum, you got clowns like Candace Owens. And every time these guys say something, you immediately come rushing. Ooh, you need to say something. No, we don't. If you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, you're not supposed to even care because you're too busy doing the work. See, the problem is a lot of you live on social media. You got your doggone mobile device super glued to your hand and you're constantly lurking for something, a new something or other that you can read about, something or other you can point to and go, ooh, look at this. And to you, you think that's real life because it is your life. When someone says something you like, even though you don't know this person from a can of paint, you still can't wait to hurry out and tell everyone about it. And if someone says something patently stupid, you can't wait to tell everyone about that. This gossipy, immature mentality has no place in black empowerment. If I don't respond or talk about irrelevant or unknown people, what makes you think I'll tolerate commenters or subscribers who bring that mess here? A lot of black people like being the lowest common denominator. They like lowbrow discussions because that's all they can handle. They prefer immaturity because they're incapable of being adults. Well, that's not us. That's not B1. I explained to you what the U.S. military's definition of legitimacy was. It is authority given to one person by another person or another group. Now, before you go authorizing someone to speak for you, don't you think they ought to have to prove that they won't break bad on you first? Ahmaud Arbery was as clear-cut a case of anti-black violence as there has ever been. But the ink on the jury verdict wasn't even dry before his father was already in front of the cameras trying to get himself 5 minutes of attention, saying all lives matter. Apparently, nobody had explained to the, shall we say, eccentric behaving Arbery Sr. that his son wasn't killed as a result of being an immigrant or LGBT or because he wore the wrong color slippers. His son was killed simply because he was black. And for no other reason. Apparently, Mr. Arbery didn't think that that was reason to specify it, and he didn't want to dwell on that. And you notice how you had Mushmouth Crump standing behind him. In case anyone's forgotten, the family of Ahmaud Arbery, specifically his mother, has filed a civil rights lawsuit against the city, against the DA's office, against members of the police chief and such. Multi-million-dollar suit against them. That being the case, well, I guess as far as they're concerned, they don't want any hard feelings to be had, and they want to make certain to grease the skids. We don't want them resisting giving us a check for something. That's the mentality a lot of these folks have. Well, so-and-so is dead, and there's nothing that can be done about it. At least their death won't be for nothing. I'll get a check out of it. Now, that might be alien and grotesque to you, but we got to be honest, when you got folks who are willing to get in front of the cameras and start bootlicking and buck dancing and shuffling, you can't put anything past someone like that. And it goes beyond these Babbitt-like scumbags like Sleaze, Merritt, and Mushmouth Crump. Oh, sure, those guys are the most obvious suspects. When you see them, you know some crap's going down. But that's why I started off with Ashley Hall. Just to make sure you understand, there's a lot of Negroes who are out here playing this game. The white media has conditioned them and trained them like Pavlovian dogs as to what to expect, what they need to do in order to get a check. You get out here, you need to say forgive, forgive, and don't be blaming nobody. Hey, look, it's all about a check now. You can't do nothing about so-and-so's dead. There ain't nothing you can do about it. Oh, but you can get yourself a new TV. Why, this will change your life. Isn't some blood money here going to change everything? And you got these people who are sitting here going, ooh, that's so, I'll get out there and say all lives matter. I'll say that it wasn't even racist, even though that's the entire reason that people think that this trial is noteworthy. I'll go ahead and say that. That's fine. All lives matter. Ooh, we all God's children. Because, ooh, man, $15 million, that's a lot of money. I'm sure that Ashley Hall was looking to go, and $2 million, that's a lot of money. Not if you don't live to spend it. When you allow these murderers and their supporters in these police departments and in these DA's offices and on the bench to be running around and supporting these guys and protecting them, you are making it where these scumbags will come back later and they'll either kill you or some member of your family, and that'll be the end of that. I notice how all these people who get these quickie checks from these cities, you notice how you never really hear about what they do afterwards. Because it's like the freaking lottery. It goes through their fingers like water. They go and trick it off on some nonsense. They go on a shopping spree. As far as they're concerned, well, I got taken care of, so I'm putting this behind me. Anybody who just can't bring themselves to say white supremacy, who just can't bring themselves to put a name on it, who cannot call it what it is, and who decides that apparently they feel self-conscious about it because, I got these white folks with these media pointing cameras at me, and I know there's a lot of white folks watching this, and I don't want to offend none of them, so I'm just going to go ahead and hold my peace because Jesus knows what God's in controls now. Ain't that how Ahmaud Arbery's father was talking? Ain't that the gibberish that he was spouting? I know that a lot of you stay abreast of these kind of situations. You stay appraised of it. You follow these stories. There's nothing wrong with that. We want for you to be informed and be engaged and to know what's going on. But when you come to the point of, this is something that's happened over here, and should we weigh in? Well, what do you think about? No, we're not going to be signal boosting somebody else who's trying to figure out how to hustle themselves something. If you're somebody who routinely consumes a bunch of information, usually from the white media, and yet you never stop for a moment to reflect on what it means or to analyze it, then it's done you absolutely no good. So for the people who were slow on the uptake before and have probably not been listening for 15 years, the people who haven't been paying attention, I should say, even though they've been here a long while, there's a reason why it is you hear us mention certain names while there are other names that we don't mention whatsoever. Okay, get it through your head. It's not because we don't know. This ain't about proving are we up to date with the latest musings from this, that, and the third. A lot of people are talking. The question is who's doing. If you consider yourself to be on Team Black Empowerment, if you consider yourself part of intelligent Black society, then you're supposed to be higher than this, bigger than this. Your mentality is supposed to be greater than this. You're supposed to already know there's a reason why we don't go out there putting on the cape for people. And there's a reason why it is that some person who we don't know and who has no track record with us says one thing and we don't follow behind them because of that. They got to earn our support. Now, there's going to be plenty of other fools coming along after Kwame Brown and others. There always are. These clowns pop up like so many hemorrhoids after a few weeks or what have you. There'll be plenty more. So for all you folks out there who weren't paying attention, before you get ready to let your Twitter fingers run wild or decide to go in the comments section and say, I just saw something on YouTube today just amazed me. So-and-so athlete, so-and-so singer, so-and-so entertainer said this, and there was some person, I don't even know this person, but they were on CNN or MSNBC, and they said, what you think about this? What you think's about that? Before you go deciding to get carried away with yourself, before you go boosting someone else's image who you don't know, you better make them prove themselves first. We don't cater to or are interested in trying to have discourse with any group of people who need to have every little thing spelled out for them. You see me mention this on my Twitter feed quite frequently. If somebody says something and you got some idiot who feels the need, I need to spell out what's being said here. No, you don't. Those are the people who get blocked. Somebody says something, you're supposed to just nod your head, because if you didn't understand what was said, if somebody didn't get the message, that meant it wasn't meant for them. If something goes over your head and you just didn't get it, that's okay. It wasn't meant for you. Somebody comes in and go, what's this mean? What's that mean? And you always got some idiot who wants to play doggone Mr. Butler for them. Well, let me go ahead and spill every little thing out for you. People like that are no better than informants. Over here, we actually use our brains. We give people credit for having brains, and we expect you to use them. You know full well that we got our ear to the ground, just like everybody else. We pick up more than most. So while everybody else is all abuzz because some D-list, Z-list nobody who was a bench warmer for God knows what team spouts some gibberish, when you see us not saying anything, your ears are supposed to perk up. You're supposed to already be on code with that. You're supposed to already understand that silence can be the strongest statement of all. But all these people who have an immature mindset, I saw something on YouTube, heard somebody say something. Oh, you hear what this? Did you hear what this person over here said? Oh, I just have to tell everyone. Oh, I'm so excited. Oh, people like that are not going to take us anywhere. People who simply cannot control themselves and they have that immature mindset, these people will not do us any good. People who cannot control their mouths or their hands, they will be of absolutely no benefit to Black empowerment, and they have no place here. You're supposed to know that. That's part of what it means to be B1. We're not supposed to be spelling every little thing out. We're not supposed to need to. And what exactly is it that you're expecting one of these newcomers to do, even if they were on the level? What is exactly you're expecting them to do? What is it that you want from them? What is it you think that they're going to be doing that hasn't been done already? How are they going to change things? How are they going to revolutionize things? What were you expecting? Even if Kwame Brown was not this doggone bootlicking scumbag step and fetch it moron, even if he was actually rock solid, what are you expecting for him to do? What's supposed to happen? And the fact that you can't even answer that question ought to tell you everything. What significance is there to him saying what he says at all? The answer? Nothing. It changes nothing, does nothing, accomplishes nothing, and neither does your signal boosting him. And if you're wondering to yourself, well, I'm just asking because I'm just curious whether or not this person's legitimate. I'm just curious about stems. Okay, fine then. Let me make this real simple. I'll even make a nice little soundbite out of it in the hopes that you won't do anything that'll wind up getting yourself blocked. If you want to find out whether someone is legit, there's only one way to know for sure. Time.